numbers, like that Sam had literally had a $10 billion account that he mislabeled with Alameda Research.
Mislabeled?
Yeah, he called it fiat at FTX. But it was a $10 billion hole.
What do you mean by mislabeled?
Well, it was on a spreadsheet, Joe. So he was put it on a spreadsheet for their balance sheet, and he mislabeled the account fiat at FTX. And so what prosecutors are now arguing is he knew, of course, what it was. He deliberately obscured what that was to hide it from people who were trying to take a look at his books. But it's just, that's what I mean by black box. You never know what games these guys are playing. Like they say, oh, here's sort of like the rough estimate of our balances. But oops, did I tell you about this $10 billion account? Like I forgot. It's so silly. It's, yeah. You find out like there were just no adults in that room, and like the few adults that there were like, you know, they had like a criminal lawyer. Well, anyway, I don't think he's actually been convicted. I think that they had this guy Dan Friedberg. Shady. This guy
Allegedly shady.
Dan Friedberg. No, he's definitely shady. I'll say that. This guy.
What was his? I remember, but what was his?
His whole thing was he did this thing with Ultimate Bet. So he was one of the lawyers. So there's this poker site called Ultimate Bet, and he got caught in this scandal where they had enabled this thing called God Mode on Ultimate Bet, where the CEO could see everybody's hands and play on the site, seeing everybody's hands. So he cleaned up on all his own customers, just basically taking their money. Like, oh, I know exactly when to fold. I know exactly when to bet. So he had God Mode enabled, and then somebody found out about this God Mode. And so the lawyer's like, how do we basically cover this up? Dan Friedberg's like, how do we, what do you want me to do? And he's like, hey, just make this problem go away. This is the CEO. Like, go blame it on somebody else. Go blame it on some, like, third party that got access to our website. Say it was like a glitch or something. And so that is the experience of the lawyer that FTX then hires, is like being complicit on a leaked private call, trying to cover up this God Mode scam. That is his background. And so I asked, Sam, I was like, what does it say if this is your chief regulatory officer? This guy who enabled who helped cover up God Mode. And he's like, well, I don't want to comment on other, people, or it's just like.
Well, how does he skate on that? Like, how does a guy like that not wind up getting indicted?
I ask myself that every day. There's so many.
Is it a matter of time, or is it he's gotten away with it?
So many of these scams are like these issues of either regulators not having time, not having the resources, not having sort of like, it's maybe not big enough. They're good people, a lot of the people going after these guys, but it's like trying to catch everyone who's speeding. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like people get away with it. It's just there's too many people doing it. And you'll catch some people, but ultimately a lot of people will just basically skate by, even though by all rights they should have been, caught. In my view, what he did was criminal. That's why I started. But it hasn't been prosecuted or anything like that. But he's on a leaked private call. Everyone can go listen to it yourself. It's just this shocking thing. And I think that shows, like, if you're running a shady empire, like, who's better than a shady lawyer to try to help you cover it up, right?
How did you get involved in what you do?
It's a weird thing.
So when did you start your YouTube channel?
So I started it a few years ago, 2018, 2019.
And what was the first video?
I started as sort of like an interview show, nothing about scams. I had a channel before it. I went to school for chemical engineering and hated it. I was miserable. I was like, I do not want my life to be earning 2% more of, of a bottom line for ExxonMobil or any chemical. I just wasn't interested. I was like, that's not my life. So I always wanted to sort of, have a voice. And so I started a YouTube channel just doing random videos. I hadn't really found my footing. But throughout my entire life, I had kind of had this relationship with, like, hucksters and fraud, where, when I was in high school, my mom got thyroid cancer, very treatable kind of cancer, and she's fine. But at the time I watched her as she's like, gets this diagnosis, gets swept up with all these hucksters who are telling her that the way to treat thyroid cancer is not surgery. You can just treat it naturally. Just don't worry about, hey, don't listen to the doctors. Don't listen to your general practitioner. You can just treat it with like colloidal silver, or with just put a bunch of garlic cloves in the pot. I still remember our house like reeked. She would put 60 cloves of garlic in a stew, and she would drink it up because she thought that would make her better. Ultimately, my dad convinced her, like, you got to get this surgery. Like, this ain't gonna fly. You have to, ultimately get the surgery, which thankfully she did, and she's fine now. She takes medication to replace the hormones her thyroid would generate. But I saw my mom kind of get swept in this thing that I knew was nonsense, but it's sort of like hard. You kind of have to disprove every single.
Well, that fucking
like, there's
sucks.
always a new like health guy telling you that there's some new alternative discovery, whatever. And I was like, this is kind of weird. And I was like, why do they hate doctors so much? And it always seems to like end up with a sales pitch. It never was like, hey, let me just give you this free thing. It was like always like there's a catch. So I didn't really know what I was looking at the time. Then I go to college, and all my friends get an MLMs, multi-level marketing, sort of like just like hey, you're gonna get rich. So I was always getting invited to these like get rich seminars, and I'd go because it was like my friends like said, hey, we have to get somebody. You want to go? And I was like, sure, I'll go. I was like kind of fascinated. And you'd see these guys, they're like, hey, don't work a 9-to-5 job, like be free like me. And I'm like, you're here on a Sunday at like 5 p.m. How free are you really? Like, you're just kind of grifting here. And so, but you'd see them in nice cars, and so I was like,
Jesus
what am I looking
Christ,
at?
I have so much
And then
bad RNG
as I'm
with
doing
this
my YouTube
Black
show, I'm
Knight.
like, I get fed a bunch of ads, like get rich quick schemes. You've got a bunch of people, flexing in their Lamborghinis, telling you, they're like 25 years old, telling you want to get rich by 25, 22. I'll show you. I made $1 million. I'm a millionaire by the time I'm 23 years old. Just buy my course. My course is, $2,000. Pay me $2,000. I'll teach you to get rich quick. So I saw all this, and my experiences up to that point, it kind of led me to like, I want to say something, but why is nobody saying anything? It just seemed like there was this, these people pitching this stuff and nobody was talking about it. So I made this random video just basically screaming about, all these scammers online. And unlike my previous work, which kind of had like it had gotten some reactions, but not much. What I noticed is it resonated with people beyond the views, if that makes sense. Like, I was just like, there was something different about the reaction to it. Like, and victims would reach out to me. They'd be like, hey, I'd been scammed by this guy, and I didn't realize what was going on. And you showed me, sort of like how the whole scheme worked. So I decided to start pursuing it step by step. And at first it was like just me discovering like, well, what is this? Well, how does this scheme work? Okay, so I buy this course, and then what? What are you saying in the terms of service that means that I can't sue you? You have all these terms of service that basically say none of what I'm saying is true. Like, they say they can get you rich in the sales pitch, and then in the terms of service they said results may vary. What's that about? I mean, ultimately it's like, and so I realized like, oh, there's this sophisticated way that they're preying on my psychology, and they're setting it up with like, I used to be broke like you. Well, that's a strategy. A lot of these guys were never broke. Right? It's just part of the story you have to tell to be really effective. It's like, I used to be just like you, Joe, but then, I found out that doing Amazon drop shipping is the way to make millions of dollars. And, I used to fail, but by these little tricks, I found out how to be successful. And if you invest with me, I'll save you time. You could do it yourself, Joe. You could do it, but what? It's going to take you 5 years. Get with me, and I'm going to shortcut your success. 2 months, you're going to be making 5 figures a month, 10 months, maybe 6 figures a month. And I've done it for people before. That's the social proof. I've shown people how to do this. You can watch them. These are real people, Joe. You can be just like them. And so I started watching this, and I started like seeing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. I start covering it, and then I start to get cease and desist letters. They don't like that. So they start to send me, they say, hey, you better shut up or we're going to sue you. And I was like, okay. I'm not going to stop making these videos. I just kept making the videos, and ultimately they never did. But I start doing that, and after I cover get rich quick schemes for a while,
God
I start hearing
fucking
about these
damn it.
tokens. And they're like, hey, selling courses, like, it's always the new grift. you always have to find, because people figure it out. Like they go like, oh, that actually doesn't work. Okay, drop shipping is not actually like this incredible business that you thought it was, that you're gonna get rich easily. So don't do that. Go do crypto. You got to get into crypto now. And then it became NFTs for a while. But like, so I eventually like pivoted into this crypto direction and learned all about that. But it started just from a curiosity about scammers, and I wanted somebody to say something, because I was just like, why does this make some people tens of millions of dollars and nothing happens? Why are some of these people making hundreds of millions of dollars? People are miserable at the end of it, and nothing happens. And that was the start of my show.
So you start just doing interviews about what? Like you didn't start doing this. You started doing just like a normal interview show?
I was just doing a normal interview show with a few of my buddies, and it just was kind of, I was just trying to find my way. I was just trying to like, even before that I had done a show where I was like trying to break down these topics. I was like researching addiction, and I was just like trying to, make some digestible piece of media around like addiction, right? Because like I always was interested in communicating complicated ideas in a digestible way. I just felt like, man, there's so much cool science out there. There's so many cool ideas out there. How do we communicate this? So I did that for a while. Then I started like Coffee Zone, like this spin-off channel. I was like, let me do some interviews. And then it was also my place. I just threw things at the wall. So then that's where I threw one of my like I just like ranted about this thing against the wall, and it kind of like stuck. And I just enjoyed it. I was like, man, screw these people, like we're taking advantage of like, and what was sick about it is they're not taking advantage of rich people, because rich people will sue you. If you screw them over, rich people will sue you.
Right.
They're taking advantage of like people who they're like at $10,000 or $2,000. That's like all their disposable income. And they're betting on these hucksters to dig themselves out of these situations. And that's one of the things I try to tell people is like, a lot of the success of these things is it's not even about greed. It's about desperation. When you fall for these things, a lot of times, you're like my mom. Like the reason she fell for these things is she so badly didn't want surgery that she was willing to believe anything, right? Because she's like, if you tell me, and I have cancer, and you tell me I can be better, you tell me it's $10,000, you tell me it's $1, I'll pay you either way, right? And so people are financially, they feel like they're terminally ill financially. They're just like, I don't know how to get out of this. I feel like I have no opportunities. This guy, I'm watching YouTube, I'm trying to better myself, I'm trying to educate myself, and this guy comes on and tells me it's all a click away, right? It's all a credit card swipe away.
What has been the reaction? Like, what has been the most visceral or violent reaction to what you've done and exposed?
I think the biggest story we probably ever broken was either the FTX stuff, but that was already kind of going on. It's probably the Logan Paul story, the CryptoZoo saga. That was a case where, it's just the classic influencer greed story where this guy launches an NFT project, does millions upon millions of dollars in sales, and delivers nothing. He promises the world a fun blockchain game that earns you money, and he did nothing, and the project was left abandoned, and people were like miserable, complaining. No one says it, but
I'm not
they
aware
don't have
of
a voice.
that. I'm kind of aware that you covered it, but I don't know the story.
So let me back up then. So Logan Paul is popular influencer. You know who he is.
Sure.
So he, along with a lot of influencers, got really interested in like the crypto space, and he had done a coin before that called Dink Doink, which was abandoned shortly after he promoted it. People got invested, goes to zero, right? And he says, well, that's not my project. That was my buddy's project. And then like a month later, he's like, I actually do have a project. Excited to announce it. It's called CryptoZoo. It's a fun game. They called it a fun game that earns you money. Basically, the idea is they're going to sell you these two things. Eggs is NFT, and then there's a coin aspect to it called Zoo tokens, okay? So you can buy these Zoo tokens to buy the eggs, and the idea is the eggs will then hatch into animals that will earn passive Zoo tokens. So you can buy eggs with Zoo tokens, and then the eggs will passively earn you Zoo tokens. Does that make sense?
No.
Well, don't worry. You're kind of actually caught up. So these zoo tokens were basically this passive income. You know, you basically invest up front, and then you're sort of getting the tokens back out, which you can then
I don't
sell,
know why I
guess.
did that.
So that was the idea pitched to people, and people immediately buy in. They $3 million in NFT sales, tens of millions of dollars in the tokens itself, the zoo tokens. People are so excited about it because it's Logan Paul, and he says this is his project. He's putting his name behind it, his backing behind it, and he's a great marketer. I mean, you got to give the guy credit where credit is due. He's a tremendous marketer. So people get all excited. All of a sudden, the hatch day comes when you're supposed to hatch these eggs, and half the hatching doesn't work.
How does the hatching work? Is it on a computer model?
It was on.
What is it?
It was on the blockchain, so you could your NFTs would turn into different NFTs. Like they would transform into the animals. They go from an egg to an animal.
How?
It's just blockchain coding. I mean, it's just.
But how do they? Is it predetermined?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's
how does your egg become an ostrich?
It's just random. It's supposed to be randomly generated animals. So
you might
when
get
you
a
hatch
rhino.
You might get
a chicken.
Exactly. And then you could like crossbreed your rhino with like a chicken and get like a ricken or something and get even more tokens. But
Is this it?
yeah, there it is. You get like bear shark. So like
Panda.
so people start to like.
Is it still around?
So they say they're gonna go back and fix it now. So Logan, after being not involved for like a year, as soon as my video comes out, he goes, "Damn, what a coincidence! Like I've been working on it. Like I was gonna, make it, like launch it." In reality, he hadn't touched it for a very long period of time. But so sorry to back up.
Okay.
The half the eggs don't work, and they're not actually earning anything. The whole time they said they were gonna earn you these tokens, right? They're not earning anything. So the promises haven't been fulfilled. There's just sort of all this stuff going on behind the scenes. Logan's quiet. Come to find out, he had hired basically criminals who were selling on the back end, like some of the tokens, and he was sort of like, I don't know what his thing was. I think he realized like, it's not gonna be that successful. Let me move on. I think his mentality was, let me just move on. Right? The problem, though, is you have millions of dollars of investment in a thing that you promoted. You told everyone it was going to make them money, and then you never delivered anything. So my story was basically showing the victims of the scheme, and in response, he's like, well, I'm going to sue you for that.
He said he's gonna sue you.
Yeah, he said, I'll see you in court. And then the backlash against him was so severe that he releases a video saying, thank you, Compzilla, for showing at the world what happened. And I appreciate it. I responded out of anger, but I'm going to make things right. I'm going to fix the game to what it was supposed to be, and I'm going to pay back $1.7 million. I'm committing $1.7 million to anyone who bought an NFT can get a refund. Now, there's a bit of an issue with that. So that's nice. I actually think it's great that happened, but there's two issues with it. Number one, which is that the NFTs were only a small part of the sale. They actually weren't even half. Because people bought these tokens. So the people who bought tokens get nothing. He's offering, this refund on the NFTs. The other problem is he hasn't refunded the NFTs. I've actually reached out to him twice. It's been like over a month since he's done this. So he said he's gonna do it, and then the Discord, he's posting in this little chat room with the investors. After he said he was gonna do it, he's posted nothing. There's no way to get a refund right now. So I keep asking him like, hey, you promised 1.7 million to these investors. They're all waiting. It's been over, I think it's almost been 2 months now, and there's nothing. So it's like, he says that he's refunding people, which sounds great for PR, and then it's just like radio silence. So what I'm ultimately looking for is some accountability from these guys. They're happy to make money from the endeavors. They're happy to potentially make millions of dollars from these, different projects they're spinning up. But the second accountability is asked for, you can't reach them.
So, is it well? I would assume Logan's a very busy guy, and
Sure.
I would assume that he probably didn't come up with this on his own. I would assume that someone probably came to him with this project. This is just total assumption, guessing on my part.
So we have text messages from behind the scenes. A lot of people, the people who were responsible for it say Logan kind of spearheaded the idea. He says he spearheaded the idea.
So it was his idea.
Yeah.
And And so he's working with someone, right? That probably assured him that this would work.
Yeah. I mean, he had this team of a few guys who they didn't do much vetting into, and some of them turned out to be criminals. But you know, my feeling is ultimately, no matter what happens, like when you take people's money, that's what I'm trying to like on my show. I'm trying to tell these like influencers, like when you take people's money, it's different. When you tell them you're going to make them money and you get into the financial investment game, your responsibility is different. You can't just always pass the buck to like, it was like a guy that's not that trustworthy. It's like, all right, that might be true. Then go fix it. Go hire some more guys that are trustworthy and fix the thing. And I think my experience, because I've talked to Logan, and that's why I know he didn't respond to me, because I texted him. I said, hey, where's this money? He left me on red. But I've talked to him, and when I talk to him, you know, there's just sort of this feeling of, he's like, I just don't want to think about this. Like, I don't want to be, you know, he wants to focus on crime, which is successful. He doesn't really want to be bothered with the victims of the scheme that he ultimately thought of in the first place.
So it's still is it possible that he's just gathering the money or working out a way to do it legally where it makes sense?
It's very frustrating because, you know, at every turn it's just sort of like, you know, it is, I want to say it's possible. We just don't know, and it's just sort of like, when you promise people refunds, like the longer you wait, you know the less people are actually going to take that refund. If Walmart says, hey, bring in this skull, I'll give you a refund, and you're like, all right, when can I bring it in? And they don't respond to you for 2 months. They know that you're less likely to actually take the refund. So I don't know if he's doing it because he wants less people to get the refund. He probably is busy, but my thought is a transgression of this magnitude where you're playing with people's money and livelihoods, you cannot take it lightly. And that's one of the things is these influencers got into this crypto space. I don't think they fully appreciated they're now dealing with financial investments, and it's not a joke. It's not like a brand deal where, you know, if NordVPN isn't as great as they said it was, you know, it's all cool.
Right.
It's your company, and you promise people you're going to make the money, and now you haven't said anything for over a year, then you say you're going to refund them, and you don't say anything for 2 months. That's an issue.
The whole crypto space and the whole NFT space is filled with weirdos. Like everyone that I've talked to that wants to come to me with some idea, it's always very strange. Like when people have come to, you know, like my business manager with financial propositions, they're always, it's logical. Like it makes sense. Oh, invest in this. This is a fund and it does this, and this is how you get a return on your investment. None of that stuff ever made any sense to me. I avoided all of it, luckily, but I was propositioned by multiple different entities about these kind of things, and I was like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know, like, why would anybody buy an NFT? Like, you know, oh, it's a non-fungible token, and then you put it in a NFT wallet, and you have this thing. I'm like, but I have the same thing on my phone. I can take a screenshot of that NFT, and I have it. Like, what is the thing, the physical thing? You know, it's like, I understand, like, Beeple. You know who Beeple is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Beeple made that little Giga Chad thing for us. It's a piece of digital artwork.
Yeah.
And, you know, he has an actual museum of digital art.
Right.
And if you buy a piece from him, you actually get a physical piece of digital art. There's something there.
Yeah.
I get it. Makes sense. I like the Ape Yacht Club, whatever the fuck that is. Like, what's going on here? Like, I have a friend of mine who's an artist who made over $1 million on NFTs, and I'm like, what did you do? And like, he talks to me for 10 minutes, and I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck you just said.
Yeah. So, let me start by saying, I work with a super talented digital artist. So he does a lot of my set stuff. So I have a lot of respect for, you know, the challenge of a lot of digital artists as opposed to physical artists is like, if you're a painter, you sell your paintings.
Right.
If you're a digital artist, how do you print it out? Like, what do you do? So NFTs were sort of, originally it was like, this is for artists. Like, this is a way for a digital artist now to legitimately sell scarcity in their work, which previously they had no way of doing. You still can take a screenshot, but you don't own the NFT that like sort of the digital artist has sort of provisioned like this is.
Oh my fucking god, dude.
I have a lot of like in that way, in that one way, I get it. I get why people wanted it to be, you know, to become the next big thing. The problem is it's quickly taken over as an investment vehicle. Now it's like everybody's an art dealer, and now everybody's an art expert, and now we're trying to make a buck, right? And that anytime you get art involved with money, things get
Oh
weird.
my god, that's so
Especially
lucky.
when you get art involved with quick flips and returns, and now we're gonna all make money from this. That's when things get really weird. So like, I feel bad sort of for digital artists, legitimate digital artists who really do legitimate NFT work. I don't think there's anything wrong with selling your work as a digital artist. Like, what do you expect them to do? Not everybody can go work for like some random YouTuber. Like, you know, people have to earn a living. They do legitimate work and good work. But the problem is when greed gets involved, when people get involved basically promising, you know, money. In the case of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's sort of like what their idea was, we'll start like almost like a country club where the NFT is the pass for the country club, and like you can go chat with the like holders of this Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I guess the idea is like, because it's expensive, then you get in the room with, you know, people with money. But I found that whole thing weird because of the like, you know, Jimmy Fallon's getting involved, and then all these like mainstream celebrities, you know, start promoting this thing, and it's like, this is a little, why is everyone doing it? And then you come to find out that a lot of them had their Bored Apes bought by this company called MoonPay, who is trying to like, you know, use the celebrity's likeness to push that out. And it's just like, this is a strange, what's actually going on here? Is it just about the art?
Oof.
It doesn't actually appear to be.
I just don't understand how it worked. I don't understand how anybody looked at it and went, "This is logical. I'm gonna buy that."
So think about it. So think about it this way, though. So I'm sure you played a bunch of games, video games, right? Have you ever played a video game where like they have like in-game, you know, skins and like different like outfits?
Sure.
So tons of businesses have been built. Like the entire free-to-play model of Fortnite. You know, Fortnite makes millions and millions and millions of dollars. Their whole model is built on skins and like different like in-game purchasable items.
Right.
You don't actually own anything. Ultimately, it just lives and dies with your computer. NFTs are sort of like, I guess the idea with NFT gaming or whatever is like, well, you would actually own it. Like the game couldn't take it away from you. You'd have some piece of art
It's not horrible.
ownership of that would matter.
If I didn't get annihilated by that
Again, I think the challenge
Black Knight
is just
or that Battle on SRNG and the wrong warp. It wasn't horrible. And it was my first time getting that meme roll in Blighttown. Very proud. And this isn't even a PB. I got a 2310 by complete accident. But this will be the first I upload to YouTube and Speed Souls. Thank you for watching, if anyone's doing that.